Glad to have you back and welcome to the Monday Business News Report. We start off with our feature on the show today as we look at reports from the Nigerian Communications Commission, which is cautioning telecommunication subscribers not to delay further in linking their SIM cards and their national identity number. It says further that any further delay in taking the advantage of the recent extension of the earlier deadline could catch some of them napping, as the federal government may no longer extend the existing deadline. It also warns subscribers not to stop purchase and also use of pre-registered SIM cards, which remains illegal and a criminal act in the country. According to reports, the federal government may allow the national identity number registration to run till June the 30th. The planned extension follows the capturing of about 54 million Nigerians by the National Identity Management Commission, and as at April the 30th this year, NIMC had about 54 million records in the National Identity Database. The current number of monthly enrollment has also increased significantly to 2.6 million. On NIN SIM linkage, a total of 56.18 million NINs have been collected by mobile operators in the country. Each NIN is usually tied to at least an average of 3 to 4 SIMs. Joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this and much more, I have Kenny Adenuba, Strategy and Policy Analyst. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
Good morning.
Now, we are having this caution from the NTC saying that subscribers should not take for granted this delay. But how do we correct the narrative that we cannot necessarily put a timeline to registration such as this? We've had date set and extensions, date set and further extensions. So it just begs the question, is this the route we'll be going through, or we should accept the fact that this is an ongoing cyclical process that has to be contained?
Well, it's cyclical, and if we look at it very critically, we will say certain things. When this started, the first question I asked people around me was, to what intent? You have a whole lot of other means of identification. Yes, national identity management number is fantastic. NIN is good. I did mine even before all this would happen, so I didn't have problem having to go and queue and everything. However, in a state of health hazard, in a situation where there's a pandemic and we want people to be careful, we still headed them into places to go and meet deadlines. I think that was quite insensitive at that moment. But
now we are seeing simplification of the process and also an easier...
Well, because reality now begins to dawn on everyone that it can't work the way they thought it would. So, as of today, what have we achieved? We've achieved about 25% compliance so far. 54 million actually are in the database right now.
56 million are in the database.
No, in the database of the telecoms.
Yes,
but in NIMC database, the national database, we have 54 million, which is about 25% of the population. And then you want to say that, and where you then have an average of 60% of the populace with mobile phones, you can look at how that begins to work. So it may have to be an ongoing thing, because you cannot put a stop to it and cut it off at a particular time. I said, after this one, everybody that is left behind, you're cut off. What happens to that person in the village of Isalangwa? Because some of them don't have the opportunity that you have in the city. Unfortunately, most of the time, we tend to look at things from the narrow perspective of the city experience.
What new conversations do you think this phenomenon also raises in terms of our data collection and then data management strategy at this point in time?
Now, one of the things we need to realize is this question to ask rather: what has National Orientation Agency done to help this matter? Where have they gone so far? Do you have them right in the hinterlands to capture the people? Because this is not just about, what I see is we do the major cities and towns, and if you go into those hinterlands, if you go into from Karanamoda to Ejigbo, or to some villages somewhere in the south, how far have people been educated on the need for this? Because at the end of the day, you ask yourself questions. You want to capture all Nigerians. But what information are you giving them? How far has radio communication on radio gone with them? National Orientation Agency, I'm not sure I've seen so much, because people need to be bombarded with information. So to also know the reason why they need to do this, the advantage, the benefits of these things. Otherwise, we know ourselves. If we don't see what is in it for us, why we need to do it, we're not likely to push. And then people must be encouraged to come into it. You don't do it by, by threat. Because what I see now is we've been threatening people. We will cut you off.
Either get registered or get blocked.
Or get blocked. And people are saying, you know what, you can block it. And that doesn't help anybody. Now,
let's also take the decision of the federal government now to take much more seriously the activities of Boko Haram insurgents, bandits, fraudsters, cyber criminals with this NIN SIM card linkage policy now. To what extent do you think this would attend to the rising insecurity we have in the country, but also on the back of the fact that we cannot access new SIM cards? Businesses are being stifled just because of this move as well, and then it's also wrong or not legal at this point in time to also purchase pre-registered SIM cards.
It is illegal to purchase pre-registered. At the same time, the government is not allowing people to register because businesses need numbers to work with. They need phone numbers. They need new businesses are starting, and they need to have the business numbers that clients can call them on and what have you. And you're saying they can't register right now. The question is, who devises up, who comes up with our policies? Because at the end of the day, we must look at things pragmatically and practically. What exactly do we want to achieve? NIN is there, and it will be a continuous process.
It must be.
It has to be, because you can't stop national identification registration after a certain time. It's a continuous thing. It's like you want to register for driver's license. It's a continuous thing. So people will have need to renew. People will have need to come on board, afresh. So it's a continuous thing. The challenge we're going to be having is when government does not look at things holistically, and they only look at, well, you talk about the insecurity and what have you. It's a good thing. It probably will be able to help, but the question to then ask is this: we've had banditry, we've had kidnapping. How has that helped so far in finding out where being able to map out the location of bandits?
This is going to increase our data collection base, the information we have, and then how to track numbers.
So far we've had some. How many have we been able to track? What are the tracking devices we've been able to put in place? How well are we using what we have? These are questions we want to ask. It is good to have this, but the question at the end of the day, we look at it. We have police, Nigerian police force having vehicles. Sometimes they tell you that they don't have fuel. I hope that this doesn't happen to this as well.
This is where we'll just have to end this conversation. At the end of the day, the take home is that such registrations have to be
a
continuous process. We cannot just put a timeline to it, because we have new need to register new numbers, and then the population continues to grow. Access to telecommunication services would continue to increase,
it must be.
We need registrations.
We can't put a date to cut off totally and then seal it up. It must keep flowing.
Mr. Kenny Adenugba, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.